friends, and welcome back. So in the part 1 we are going to cover some interview questions and answers related with the installers, installation, license and different kind of additions and the different versions of the WebLogic server. Okay. So the very first question, okay, is what is WebLogic server? So I have categorized the different questions based on the level L1, L2, L3, but it doesn't mean that the question that I have categorized as L1 and L2 will not be there in an L3, or the question that is there in the L3 may not be there in L1, L2. Okay, it's a mix-up kind of a things. Okay, it depends on your knowledge. Okay, so what kind of a knowledge that you have in the WebLogic server? Okay, so the level of the questions get increased automatically based on your knowledge. Okay, but still I tried to categorize them then them in L1, L2, and L3 categories. So, what is WebLogic server? Okay, so WebLogic server is an Java-based application server. Okay, so now when we say Java-based application server, so we have two part. The first is Java-based and second is application server, and this further can be categorized as enterprise application server. So here we have one more word, enterprise. So WebLogic server is an Java-based enterprise application server. Okay, so this is completely based on Java. That means this WebLogic server is a software which has been built based on the Java. So that is it is called the Java base. Okay, second it is called the application server. And along with that, sometimes we say it is an enterprise application server. So application server means where we deploy our Java-based application, okay, which will be accessible for the end users, right? Because if you have developed some code in Java and you want that code or application to be accessible for the end users, so you need a platform, okay, where you deploy your application, you place your application. So we need the application server for that. So that means the if you have developed some applications based on the advanced Java or in the basics Java, okay, which you can deploy it an application server. Okay, so this is called the WebLogic server or WebLogic application server, which is completely based on Java. Why we say it enterprise? So if you have a very large organization, or you can say large business. So business can be categorized as low, medium, and high. Okay, it depends on what kind of application that you are running, how many user base you have, what is the load in your applications. There are multiple things are there, right? So if you are a large organization like the e-commerce, like the banking sectors, finance sectors, there are multiple manufacturing sectors. So there are big large sectors are there. Those have a very large number of user base. Okay, that means they have a very big or huge load on the system. They have a very high transactions. If I talk about the e-commerce, if I talk about the banking, okay, you can try to imagine that the total number of users in each and every platform, like in each and every e-commerce platform in the banking sectors, okay, and how many users are doing the transactions on day-to-day basis, okay, so they have a very huge system in place to cater this particular demand, huge number of users, huge number of transactions, right? So for that, they need an enterprise grade application servers. Okay, so we have a category of this application server as the medium level and the enterprise level. Okay, so that I will explain in the next slide. Okay, so but as of now, what you need to understand, what is WebLogic server? So WebLogic server is a Java-based application server, which also referred as the Java-based enterprise application server. And why we called it an enterprise, I have explained to you here in short. Right. So now hope it is clear to you what is WebLogic server. So if someone is going to ask you what is WebLogic server, so you can elaborate that it is a Java-based application server because it is built completely on the Java. So it is called Java-based application server. And this application server we can categorize as the enterprise application server as well. What is the meaning of enterprise? That means you have a large organization, big organization where you have a high number of transactions, high number of user base, or you can say high number of integrations as well. You may have a integration with the third party applications, multiple stakeholders. So for that you need a enterprise grade application server, and WebLogic is the enterprise grade application server. Now apart from that, if I talk about the background of WebLogic, so WebLogic Inc. was founded in 1995 by 3 or 4 friends. Okay, and then 1998 around. Okay, BEA Systems, BA Systems acquired this WebLogic Inc. in 1998. Okay, so 1995 when WebLogic Inc. was founded. Okay, and it was around somewhere around 1996 or 1997 when the first version of WebLogic was released with the name of WebLogic Tanga. WebLogic Tanga. This was the first version of WebLogic which was released by the WebLogic Inc. in the somewhere around 1996 or 1997. Then later in 1998, BEA System acquired this particular WebLogic Inc. Okay, and then renamed it to the BEA WebLogic Server. Okay, and then in around 2008, Oracle acquired this BEA system, and then it has been renamed as Oracle WebLogic Server. Okay, and when you do the troubleshooting, when you go for the logs, okay, and if you look for the different standard code that you see in the WebLogic, it is started with BEA hyphen and the number. Now, second question: how is WebLogic different from Tomcat and or a web server? So now we know that we have a multiple application servers are there in the market. Okay, and Tomcat is also referred as the application server. Okay, you will see that it is also referred as the application server, and along with that we have the web servers as well. Now, what is the difference between if I say about the WebLogic server and then Tomcat server and then web server? Okay, the explanation is very big. If we go in the detail, okay, it will be very big, but specifically from the interview question point of view. Okay, WebLogic server, we just discussed, it is an enterprise app server, enterprise based application server. Okay, and Tomcat is a lightweight application server, lightweight application server. Okay, so this Tomcat is not designed for the enterprise business. Okay, so if you have a large business where you have a huge number of user base, huge number of transactions going on, huge number of integrations, then Tomcat will not be the best fit for that. Okay, and that's why it is called the lightweight application server. Now, apart from that, there is a functionality differences as well. In WebLogic, which is an enterprise-based application server, okay, there you have one EJB container. EJB container. That means if you have developed the application in advanced Java, that means like EJBs, okay, which we use to design the business logic. So we develop the business logic mostly in the EJBs. So if you have the EJBs where your business logic is defined, so EJBs run in the EJB containers. Okay, and this EJB container only there in the enterprise application server like WebLogic. This EJB container is not there in the Tomcat. This Tomcat has only web container, which is also called the servlet container. So that means if you have an application which is designed, developed in JSPs, servlets, so you can take the Tomcat as an application server. Again, if you have a small or medium scale business, but if you have an enterprise business, large number of user base, large number of transactions, large number of integrations, and along with that, you have a business logic that has been defined in the advanced Java like EJBs, which execute only in the EJB containers. Okay, then you have to switch to the WebLogic server, which is an enterprise application server. So this WebLogic server has EJB container. Along with that, it has the web container, or you can say servlet container. So it can execute everything. So that means this Tomcat has a very limited functionalities in comparison with the enterprise grade application server, and that's why it is categorized as the lightweight application server. Okay, and this web server is completely different than your application servers. Like from the Tomcat and from WebLogic, this web server is completely different because this web server is specifically are designed for the static contents, and this mostly used as a reverse reverse proxy means like you have an application running in the WebLogic server and some client want to access the application. Okay, so in front of that we configure the web server as a reverse proxy. So the user request will reach the web server. From web server, request will go to the backend WebLogic server. So this is called the reverse proxy. Your users are not directly contacting connecting to the WebLogic server. They are contacting the web server, and web server is redirecting the request to your backend application servers like the WebLogic server. This is called the reverse proxy. So your web server mostly used for the reverse proxy, okay, for security purpose, right? Because if your users are accessing the application from the public network or internet, okay, so no one will allow anyone to directly contact the WebLogic server or your application server from the internet, right? Because there you have a complete your business logic is running. So for security purpose, we configure the web server in between, okay, and then we configure this as a reverse proxy. So this web server worked as a reverse proxy. Along with that, it serves the static content. That means it cannot execute your EJBs. It cannot execute your these servlets, because this for servlet or web containers you need the lightweight like the Tomcat application server. So it cannot execute your servlets, it cannot execute your EJBs. Okay, it only serves the static contents, and static contents means like you may have the images, you may have the videos, and then you may have the voice files, you may have the text files, you may have the HTML. So that means the content which is static, whatever the content that you are going to place, it is exactly going to be in front of the user as it is, just like you place in the server. For example, if you have copied some videos, then it will be played in front of the user in the way it has been staged in your web server. Similarly, you have designed some content in the HTML, it will be displayed in front of the user, right? But when we talk about the business logic, like the EJB containers or EJBs, which is executing the business logic, okay, so there it execute the business logic, right, in the backend. So your web server is only act as a reverse proxy, and it is only to handle the static contents. However, Tomcat is a lightweight application server. So if you have a web applications or the application that is designed in JSPs, servlets, okay, so you can use the Tomcat. But if you have enterprise business, then and you have a code that has been designed in the EJBs, then definitely you have to go with the enterprise application server, which is the WebLogic server, right? So now hope it is clear to you what is the difference between WebLogic, Tomcat, and the web servers. Now, how is WebLogic server installed? What are the different ways of installation? This question is to get some knowledge on that, if you really have some execution knowledge on WebLogic or not. Okay, so now for the WebLogic installation, okay, we have a different kind of installers. Okay, so as of now, mostly we are getting the jar installer, .jar installer, which is called the generic installer. Generic installer. Okay, so why it is called the generic installer? Because the same installer is for Windows, and same installers you will get for the Unix based machines as well, like the Linux, okay, which is a .jar extension. So you may have an installer like WLS FMW 14120.jar, something like that one, with the extension of jar. Okay, so to install this jar installer, okay, if you have the access of the graphical user interface, okay, so we just give java hyphen jar and then your installer file name, whatever the jar file name that you have, java hyphen jar and jar file name. So with the help of this, we can initiate the graphical user interface installer, okay, and then we do the installation of the WebLogic server. Now when we say there are different ways of installation, so it depend, you can install in the graphical user interface as well, like in Windows. If you are in the Linux, then we have a multiple ways to access the interface, like we use the VNC server to access the graphical user interface of Linux. We have the Xming, we have multiple other options as well, okay, that we can configure to access the graphical user interface of Linux machine. So in a nutshell, we can install the WebLogic using the graphical user interface. Apart from that, we can install in the silent mode as well, silent mode, or with the help of response file. So this mostly we use for the automation. Okay, for example, I don't want to install the graphical user interface. I want to do certain kind of automation where I will place my WebLogic jar file installer in some location, and then by executing a script, my WebLogic should be installed in the desired location. Okay, so where that is called a silent mode. Okay, silent mode or silent method. Okay, where the users are not there, we are not interacting with the installer, so we are just running the script. Okay, and then we can use a response file as well. So in the response file, we need to specify some details. For example, the location of installation, because when we are going to run the installation, the very important thing what we have to provide the location, in which location we are going to install the WebLogic, which is also referred as the Oracle home now. Okay, so we have to create a small response file where you need to specify this location, okay, and few more details. Okay, and with the help of that we can do the automation. So in a nutshell, we can install in the graphical user interface phase mode, and we can install in the silent mode as well using the response file, or even without using the response files as well in the silent mode from the command line. This is called the command line. Okay, we are not using the graphical user interface. So these are the methods that we can use for installation of WebLogic, and this is the installer jar file, and this is a command that we use for the for initiating the graphical user interface, java-jar, and then your jar file name. Now, why Java is mandatory for WebLogic server? How you install Java? It's a very basic question. So, what we have done so far, WebLogic is a Java-based application server, right? So, if it is a Java-based application server, then definitely it needs the Java to run. And why we need the Java? So, Java make it platform independent. Platform independent. It make your application platform independent. That means your applications develop on the Windows machine, develop on any of the Unix-based machines like the Linux, Debian, Ubuntu. Okay, so you can develop your code anywhere, and with the help of Java, you can run it on any of the OS. Right? You install the WebLogic on Windows, you install the WebLogic on Linux. Okay, you only need a certified Java. So once the Java is installed, okay, you can start the JVM. That means your managed servers and deploy your application. Okay, so that's why Java is mandatory for WebLogic server. Now, how you install Java is very straightforward. The mostly we use the zip file installer. So we get the zip file installer. You just need to extract it in your some of the folders. Okay, and it will be installed. So if it is a Windows, you may have some folder C colon root and then Java 8 or whatever the name that you want to give based on version, and this will be your installation location, right? Similarly, maybe on the Unix machine you have extracted inside U01 and JDK folder. So this will be your Java home. Okay, so when the Java is installed, so the location where we install the Java is referred as Java underscore home. Okay, and apart from that we get the RPM installer as well, okay, which is a package installer of the Linux machine. So if you want to install with the help of RPM package, then you can download the RPM package in your Linux machine, and then you can do the installation of using the standard Linux command as well. Okay, but mostly you will see we are using the zip installers. And if you want to go for the open source Java JDK, then you can go to your Linux machine, and then with the help of yum and then DNF command, either you can use the yum command or DNF command if you're on the latest RHEL. Okay, and then you can run the command install Java. So this will install the open source Java. Okay, so these are the different methods for you can use for installation of the Java. Now, what is certification metrics? How can the WebLogic certification metrics can be checked? So this is again a very important question. Certification metrics. Okay, so now when we install the WebLogic server, okay, we installed it an OS. Maybe it is a Windows, maybe it is the Linux, it could be Debian, it could be Ubuntu, any of the OS, right? And before installing the WebLogic server, we need the JDK, right? And when we deploy the application, your application may need the connectivity with the database, right? And how we access the application? From the browser, right? So that means whenever we go for the installation of the WebLogic server, whatever the versions that we are going, 12c, 14c, 15c, okay, there would be a corresponding certification matrix of that. That means what are the certified operating systems for this particular corresponding version? What is the certified database for this particular WebLogic server? What is the certified Java? What is the certified browser? Okay, so all this information you will see in the certification matrix. So this certification matrix has the multiple OS, multiple browser, multiple database, multiple JDK versions, which is supported for particular WebLogic server version you are going to install. And it is very important to follow this certification matrix. Okay, for example, your WebLogic may be certified on JDK 17. Okay, so you cannot install the JDK 8. It is not certified. Your this particular WebLogic server may be certified with the WebLogic, sorry, database 19c. So you cannot go with the 12c. Okay, so by this way you can check the certification metrics. Okay, this certification metrics contain all the certified ecosystem of your WebLogic server. And how to check that one? It is an completely open documentation. You can just search for the WebLogic certification metrics or the middleware certification metrics on the browser. You will directly get a link. Open this link. You will get an Excel sheet. Download that Excel sheet, and that sheet has the complete end-to-end information about the certification. So before building up any of the environment, it is important to understand the certification metrics so that you follow the certified configurations. What are the Oracle Home and WebLogic Home environment variables? So these are two important environmental variables that we mostly deal. Okay, and it's a very straightforward. For example, I have installed my WebLogic server inside U01 Oracle middleware. Okay, during installation, I have selected this particular location for the installation. So this installation location refer as Oracle Home, which is, we can say, this is the location where I have installed my Oracle WebLogic server. Okay, so once your WebLogic server is installed in this location, okay, so there will be a multiple directories inside the middleware. Okay, and here you will see a folder with the name of WL server, and then there will be multiple directories and files are here. So this WL server inside your Oracle home is referred as a WebLogic home. Okay, that means U01 Oracle middleware and then WL server. So this location, which also referred as Oracle underscore home and then slash WL server, right? Because my Oracle home is the same location, so I can replace with the environmental variable. So this location is referred as the WebLogic home. Okay, these two are the very important variables because it has a dependency on multiple software stacks. Okay, whenever if you are going to learn any of the middleware software in the future, or maybe you are learning, okay, so at multiple places you may need to define these variables, WebLogic home and Oracle home. Okay, now what is the difference between a plain WebLogic installer and the Fusion middleware infrastructure installer? So this could be L2 and L3 because Fusion middleware infrastructure installer is a different offering of the WebLogic server. Okay, so we have the two category, which is called the plain WebLogic server, and second is called the Fusion middleware infrastructure installer. Okay, so from the Oracle, we have the multiple softwares which is part of the middleware technologies. Okay, so of course WebLogic is there. Apart from WebLogic, you may heard about the SOA Suite, then Web Center, okay, and then your IDM, where you have the OID, OUD, OAM, okay, OBIEE, which is now OAS. So there are multiple middleware stacks are there from the Oracle, right? So these are the middleware stack, or you can say a separate software application which is completely built on top of the WebLogic. So that means for all these softwares and technologies, you need a base application server. Okay, and that base application server for Fusion middleware stack is called the Fusion middleware infrastructure. So all these stack softwares are completely built on the ADF, application development framework. Okay, and for that you need the JRF, Java required files. These are the two important terms specifically related with your middleware technologies, application development framework, and Java required files. And for this JRF, you need the database as well. Okay, that means most of the middleware stack, okay, need the database because of this JRF, and this middleware stacks is completely developed on the ADF. Okay, then definitely only plain WebLogic server is not going to work here. You need some a strong framework which has a support of ADF, which has a support of JRF. Okay, so for that there is another version of the WebLogic that has been released by the Oracle, which is called the Fusion Middleware Infrastructure Installer. Okay, and this Fusion Middleware Infrastructure Installer is the prerequisite for multiple Oracle WebLogic stacks, middleware stack. Okay, so plain WebLogic where you can just install the WebLogic and then deploy your Java based applications that you have built. But if you are using any of the middleware stack, of the Oracle, then definitely you need to download and install the Fusion Middleware Infrastructure Stack or the installer. So this is the difference between both two installers. Now, how is WebLogic licensing configured and how does the licensing model work? So this is a very basic questions, okay? But the very basic first thing, the multiple software or almost all softwares from the Oracles are free to download, okay? But only thing is that you are bounded to use it in your environment. Okay, so you have to make sure that if you are downloading the software and you are going to use that one, then without license you are not going to use it in your live or production environment. You can utilize them for testing and development purpose, for learning purpose, for demo purpose. Okay, but without licensing you cannot run it in your live environment or in any, you can say, in any of the professional environments. Okay, so that very first thing, there is no licensing file. In the previous older versions there was a licensing file, okay, which you need to install along with the WebLogic server. But now there is no license file. You just need to, you can download the software, you can install and use it without any license file. Okay, so how the licensing work? That means if you are buying the software WebLogic from the Oracle, so how the licensing work? So there are basically two primary matrices where you are going to buy the licensing from the Oracle. Okay, there are two matrices. One is the based on processes. That means physical CPU cores. Okay, how many physical CPU cores that we have, and if you're in a cloud, that it could be a OCPU or virtual CPU as well, right? Because in the cloud we have the virtual CPUs, and when we talk about the Oracle cloud, then we have OCPU. When you're in the AWS or some other cloud, you have a virtual CPUs, vCPUs, right? So the first part is depend on the processor, and second is called the NUP. Okay, named user plus individual users. So that means how many processors or CPU cores that you have, or maybe if you have some limited number of users, those are going to use in your environment, WebLogic servers, and where we have a certain specific set of processors and cores. Okay, so based on that, you can apply for the licensing from the Oracle. Okay, so NUP, which is the named user plus license, cover actual users with a minimum pre-processor requirement. Okay, so basically, when you are going to buy for the WebLogic licensing, you have to check with the Oracle sales representative. Okay, and then based on your requirement, your environment, complexity of your requirement, you may get a certain kind of a deals, okay, or concessions, maybe again based on your requirements. Okay, but basically in a nutshell you will get the licensing in terms of the physical cores or the OCPU virtual CPUs, or maybe based on the named user plus the total number of individual users that is going to access your environment. Okay, and there is a document available in the public domain as well. You can just search for the WebLogic licensing or WebLogic server license. So you will see this particular PDF, Oracle software licensing basics, okay, PDF file. Okay, and you can check this in this as well. You will get all the informations. Now what is Aura inventory file? Okay, so this is again a very important file, okay, which we mostly deal with when we are going to install WebLogic or maybe any of the middleware software from the Oracle. Okay, so if you do not have knowledge of this particular file, it may show that you have a lack of experience in the installation and configuration of WebLogic. Okay, because this Aura inventory directory that you designate as the Oracle inventory directory. Aura inventory means Oracle inventory directory stores an inventory of all software installed on your system. So whatever the Oracle software that you are going to install in your system or in a machine, Windows or a Linux machine, okay. So every software will be registered in this Oracle inventory directory. Okay, so you may have a multiple installation of WebLogic, WebLogic 1, WebLogic 2, WebLogic 3. You may have some more middleware softwares are installed in your system. So every software is going to be registered in the centralized Oracle inventory directory, whatever that you have installed in your system. Okay, so this central inventory location pointer file is etc aura inst.log. So whatever the directory that you have designed for this Aura inventory, where the complete end-to-end inventory is going to be maintained, this directory we specify in this file, which is inside the etc with the name of aura inst.log. And what is the content in this file? You will see like this one, inventory location. So here you will see a path with the name aura inventory. Okay, so this is the location where all the information about all the middleware stack that has been installed in your system will be there. Okay, and then there would be a corresponding group. What is the corresponding group that you have created in the operating system for installation of the middleware stack? Okay, so this is the file. This is the location, this is the group, and this contain all the stack that you have installed in your operating system. Now, what are the different editions of the WebLogic servers? Okay, so we have three different editions of the WebLogic server as of today. One is the standard edition, second is the enterprise edition, and third is the WebLogic suite. Okay, utilization is completely depend on your environment. Standard edition, enterprise edition, and WebLogic suites are completely differ in terms of the features. Okay, what are the features that you can use in your environment? Okay, again, everything is free to download. Whatever the features that you have in the standard edition, enterprise edition, WebLogic suite edition, all are free to download. You can download free everything. There is no restrictions. Okay, it doesn't mean that we have a separate installer for the standard edition, we have a separate installer for enterprise edition, we have a separate installer for WebLogic suite. It's everything is same. Okay, it depends on which feature you are going to utilize in your live environment, production environment, professional environments. Okay, so again, base standard edition is for if you are running a medium scale business or maybe a low scale business. Okay, or you can refer a small scale business. Okay, where you don't really need the high availability of the systems like clustering failure, session failures, okay, and then coherence. And so if you don't need these kind of a features for your small scale or medium scale business, then you can go for the standard edition. Okay, but if you have a requirement for an enterprise grade application, you have enterprise grade environment for e-commerce, banking applications, manufacturing, health. Okay, so there you definitely need the high availability of the system. You need the clustering feature, you need the load balancing feature, you need the failover, you need the multiple advanced tool for the troubleshooting, for monitoring. So in that case, you have to opt for the enterprise grade edition. Okay, WebLogic Suite has some more component. Okay, in on top of your standard and the enterprise editions. Okay, some information you can see like the coherence edition, the Oracle coherence enterprise edition is there, which is a in-memory grid. Okay, which is used to increase the performance of your application. So where we have a coherence clustering and the distributed caching, which increase the overall performance of your applications. If you have a rack database in the backend, okay, that means you have a clustered database in the backend. Then to get the all the benefit of the rack cluster, okay, in the Oracle we have a active grid link data source, which is specifically designed for the rack cluster. So these are the certain feature, advanced feature that we get on top of your standard and enterprise edition when we go for the WebLogic suite. So these are the three different editions, and it depend on if you are running a small scale business, medium scale business, or a large scale business. Based on that, you can opt for which version you can use based on your requirements. Okay, now one more important and common question is, what is the difference between WebLogic Server 11G, 12C, 14C, and 15C? Okay, so very first thing what I told to you that you should aware about what are the current versions of WebLogic Server in the market when you are going to attend any of the interview. So as of today, the 15C version is there, which is released some couple of months back. 15.1.1 is the version in the 15C. 14C has 14.1.20 and then 14.1.1.0, and then we have a 12C where 12.2.14, 12.2.13, 12.2.12, and so on. Okay, so we have a three categories as of today: 12C, 14C, and 15C. So you should aware about that one. What are the two versions are there in the 14C, and what are the versions in the 12C, and what are the versions in the 15C? The very first thing. Okay, now if we talk about the differences, okay, so there are n number of features, uncountable number of features that has been changed. Okay, in all these versions. Okay, it's not able to remember each and every change here, right? But the good thing is that if you elaborate the important points, okay, which give a impression that okay, you have a good knowledge on some advanced topic, or you are really have a good knowledge on the practical topics that we really use in all these different versions in the live environments. Okay, so how you can elaborate this question? Okay, so for example, you can say JDK support. So till 15C, or if we talk about from 12C, 14C, or maybe the earlier versions, okay, the previous versions were on the JDK 6, 7, 8, 9, and with the enhancement of the WebLogic versions, the JDK versions are also enhanced. Okay, and for example, in the current latest version, 15.12.2 onwards, for 14.1.2 onwards from here, that means 14.1.2 and 15.1.1. Okay, we have now 17 and 21. If we go till 14.110, then we had the version JDK 11. And this 17 and 21 is for 15C and 14.120. Okay, so there is an enhancement in the JDK versions. And when we talk about the node manager in some of the older versions, till the initial version of the 12C, okay, there was a host-based node manager. That means if you have a machine, okay, so in each and every machine, we had only one node manager. Doesn't matter how many domains you are running here, how many WebLogic installation you have here. The node manager was single in the single particular host. That was called the host-based node manager. But now we have the per domain node manager. That means if in a machine you have two domain, then you will have the two node manager. If you have a three domain, you will have a three node manager. That means per domain we will have a specific dedicated node manager, right? And now in the 12C onwards, we have the dynamic cluster is also introduced, where you can increase or decrease the number of managed servers in the cluster based on your requirement. Okay. For patching the earlier versions of the 11G, okay, we had to use the BSC utility, batch set update utility. Okay. And after that, from 12C onwards, the OPatch utility was introduced. And then since last couple of versions of the WebLogic, we have the stack patch bundle utility is there, SPB, stack patch bundle utility is there. So now for the latest versions of WebLogic, we either use the SPB if you are downloading the stack batch bundle patch. So we have a two different set of patches. If you are, you are downloading the stack patch bundle, okay, then you can use the SP batch utility to apply that patch. If you are downloading the individual patches, so for that you can use the OPatch utility. The BSC was the older one, which was in the 11G. Okay. Similarly, if we talk about the Java Enterprise Edition support, which is a specification for developing the Java-based applications. So in the current version, okay, if I talk about only the 15C, which is a 15.1.1 as of today. So 9.1 or 9.2 something is there. 9.x specification of JEE in the 15.1.1. In the 14.1.1 till 14.1.1.2, the JDK specification is 8. And in the older versions like the 11G, 10G, there were specifications of Java Enterprise Edition 5. Okay. Now when we talk about JMS, so in before the 12C versions, okay, we had the dependencies where just JMS servers and stores were targeted to only the individual servers, not to the clusters. Okay. For example, if you have two servers, two managed servers, managed server 1, managed server 2, then you have a corresponding JMS server. So there was a dependency. You cannot target your JMS servers and stores, corresponding store to the cluster. This is not allowed. Now, in the current version, the JMS clustering is possible and you can target your JMS server and stores to the cluster now. Okay. Now, from 14.1.2 onwards, we have the traditional admin console. The we do not have the traditional admin console. We have the remote console now, which is a separate utility, which is an open source utility which you can download either as a client tool in your system, or you can download it in the hosted way as well. That means directly on the admin server you can deploy the WAR file as well. Okay, but that is called the remote console. So traditional admin console is no longer available from the 14.1.2 onwards. When you go for the upgrade for the latest version, the Oracle has given you the migration tool analysis MTA and open rewrite recipes. Okay, so these two are going to help you to understand what are the different features that is depreciated in your application, and even you can fix some of the code, or you can upgrade your code with the help of open rewrite recipes as well. So these are the utilities that has been introduced by the WebLogic in the latest version. In the SSL, now the default key store is now PKCS 12. In earlier it was the JKS. Okay, now in the latest version, the default the key store is now PKCS 12. And along with that, we have a per domain demonstration certificate introduced. So in the earlier versions of the WebLogic, we had the demonstration demo certificate of the SSLs, which were independent of the domain. Okay, but now we have the dedicated domain-based demo certificates are introduced. The current latest TLS support is 1.3. Okay, and 1.2 is also supported for the TLS. But in the earlier versions of WebLogic, we had TLS 1.2, 1.1, and in the older versions, we had SSL 2.2, 3.2. Okay, and the validity of demo certificate in the current version is now reduced from 5 years to 6 months. So in the earlier versions, we had the demo certificate validity is 5 years, but now in the latest version, you will see the validity of demo certificate is only 6 months. Okay, and along with that, we have a secure production mode is also introduced in the latest version, where when you are going to configure the domain, you will get a secure mode of the production option as well, which will automatically enable the SSL configuration, demos SSL configuration for your domain. Along with that, the latest the WebLogic versions are completely cloud ready, and this is a containerized or Kubernetes ready applications. Okay, that means the WebLogic support is now completely supported on the Kubernetes, where you have a Oracle Kubernetes operator is there for management. Okay, and then you can deploy your WebLogic in the containers like the Dockers, Crew. Okay, and then we have some intelligent load balancing feature also enabled in the current version of WebLogic server. So overall, these are the certain points, important points that you can elaborate when the question is like, what is the difference between WebLogic server 11G, 12C, and 14C? Okay, so I have discussed about the multiple points. You can take 4 to 5 important points from here, like the remote console is there now in the current versions, and the patching, how we apply the patching, dynamic cluster, node manager, JDK support, and then upgrade, right? Cloud ready. So these are the certain important points you can take from this particular discussions, okay, which you can elaborate, okay, in your interview. So these are the certain important points, okay, with respect to the installer, installations of different versions, licensing, okay, and I hope you have got some good information about all these things in this session.